Coming up next on Connecting Point, a program celebrating its 20th anniversary.
We're here and we're here to serve the whole community, not only the Hispanic community.
A preview of the new high-speed computing center in Holyoke.
It's much easier to work together. So if someone at UMass and someone at Harvard is working on a problem that's kind of similar, now they can share their data much more easily.
And the do's and don'ts of online dating.
First of all, knowing yourself, and then being able to gauge the people who might be the best relationships for you.
That's all next on Connecting Point.
Connecting Point is brought to you by the members of WGBY and by
cold-pressed, unfiltered, unblended, pure Greek extra virgin olive oil. Now it's here. From the olive tree to the bottle, Manny's olive oil, the elixir of life.
Welcome to Connecting Point for Thursday, December 13th, 2012. I'm Carrie Saldo. The first Valley Gives online fundraiser made its goal of $1 million for local nonprofits in just 24 hours. The Community Foundation of Western Massachusetts says over 6,600 donors gave almost $975,000. With the $200,000 prize pool raised by the organizers, the total is more than $1.1 million. And Massachusetts' new U.S. Senator will have some key committee assignments. Elizabeth Warren, an expert on finance, will serve on the Banking Committee. She'll also have a role in shaping human services legislation on the committees on aging and health, education, labor, and pensions. Holyoke-based Nuestros Raíces, Our Roots, promotes economic, community, and human development in projects relating to food, agriculture, and the environment. I spoke with Executive Director Hilda Colon, Environmental Coordinator Juan Velez, and Farmers Market Director Jesus Espinosa about the nonprofit and its 20th anniversary celebration held this fall.
It was great. We actually had two parties. We have one for the members only, and then we had our first gala celebrating the 20 years, and that was used as a fundraiser to raise funds for our community gardens.
And the organization has grown. I mean, no pun with the fact that you're growing food, right? But it really has grown. You started with one community garden 20 years ago, and now you have a 30-acre farm. But one, you are established in Holyoke, which was an industrial city, a city that thrived off of industry. Have there been environmental challenges that you've had to confront or overcome along the way?
Yeah, we actually have 7 factories right in downtown in Holyoke. Yeah. So we used to have more of that, but now they have only 7. And we have the coal plant. Some people, they live in Holyoke and for a lot of years, and they don't even know that we have a coal plant there. So that's that kind of factory and the kind of things that affect us in Holyoke. And we are the smallest, one of the smallest towns in Massachusetts, and we have the highest rates in asthma in Massachusetts. So
because of the environmental conditions.
And if you see they have the coal plant right, and beside the coal plant is the Connecticut River. So the coal plant polluted the Connecticut River too. So.
But you've been able to sort of work with and around the challenges because now, as I mentioned, you have a 30-acre farm and several farmers markets that you've used to help the community. How have people been involved, and how have they used those farmers markets to their advantages?
The good part about this is we're trying to provide education to the people at the same time to healthy eating. And one thing is when people mention healthy eating, it's about expensive. That's the model we're trying to change, is bring healthy eating affordable at the same time. Yeah. Another thing is we're reaching out to desert areas that we have all over Holyoke in different areas, Northampton, Amherst, even Springfield had a lot of challenge, even we have a lot of markets. What we do is we provide the service to different communities, bringing those healthy food to the community, especially all around Western Mass. And the thing is the people are eating more, eating more healthy, but they're going more to the markets too. One challenge that we have is transportation. For a lot of people cannot go to the markets. We're trying to approach those challenges that bring the markets to the people.
How have you discovered the challenges that are facing the people in the community? How have you helped to work with those challenges, Hilda? Are you gathering people up? Are you going to them? How are you providing those resources?
The one-on-one connection is the better way of addressing the challenges. And I think that by having the community gardens in different areas of Holyoke, we have 9 community gardens in the most tough neighborhoods in Holyoke. We have been able to identify a lot of problems through there, and getting involved in the community with our members in different, we have different programs. Like we have the youth program with work with challenges. They work with Juan. Some of them work with the farmers market with Jesus. We have a women's program which also it's called Raíces Latina, and they also work, addressing and advocating in the school systems and trying to bring, better food and to the school systems. And it has been difficult because when I came to work for Nuestras Raíces, I was like, wow, I understood that, you might have the resources, but people don't have the education. They don't know where the places where they could go. And some of the places also where people knew about them, which are community-based organizations like Nuestras Raíces, have closed down their doors or have to diminish the services they do for the community because the lack of money and the funding out there for social services.
So how have you helped to break down that barrier to let people know, hey, we are here and here's what we can do for you and here's how we want to help?
Yeah, we do that. Right now we're using different type of programs. We have through Hudson Wave, thanks to them, we've past 5 years, what we do is we bring it to the community awareness that we can multiply your money. The double voucher program that be successful. We applied that program this year to another market, Dining Hill Market, that's in a school, and that's next to, let's put it this way, next to the mall in Holyoke. It's a desert area. We have residentials or elderlies and a lot of families there with low income that don't know about this type of program. What we do is we educate the community. We pass flyers. We go around talking to them at the markets. We educate them. Another challenge is ethnics, because we have a lot of different culture right now. What we do is we're growing food to that type of culture, but at the same time it's healthy. And we're trying to combine healthy recipes. And the way we do is we're creating new recipes with different agencies, the schools system that help us, and we bring those recipes to the market. Say, oh, you can use this alternative with this other, like say zucchini. You can create a nice salad, but you can add this of your.
So sort of respecting those cultural traditions, because you can grow all the healthy food in the world, but if you're not helping people realize that, hey, this is the way that I can still incorporate my cultural tradition, it's not going to be useful.
And a lot of people have a misconception that Nuestras Raíces is only for the Latino or the Puerto Rican specifically, which it was started by, a lot, like 7 to 8 people who were Puerto Rican.
We want to celebrate the Puerto Rican roots in Holyoke.
And people have the misconception, oh, this is just a Latino organization. But when we acquire the land, and we also in an active partnership with the trustees of reservation, which part of the bigger land where the crops and the farming happens, it's their land. So we have this partnership going, and we are addressing that issue by, partnering with people who can help us. At the same time, we're keeping our culture, but also bringing other cultures in. We have a diverse staff. I mean, from Puerto Ricans to Colombians to Dominicans to
we have Russians right now.
Russians.
Turkey.
And also in the farms, we have a variety of people who come from different ethnic backgrounds, a lot of refugees that are coming. We have a refugee program that we partnered with Lutheran Services. And so, using those connections as well has helped us, kind of deliver the message that, we're here and we're here to serve the whole community, not only the Hispanic community.
Fantastic. Congratulations on 20 years and thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
John Goodhue is the executive director of the new Massachusetts Green High Performance Computing Center in Holyoke. The center, which required partnerships with government, industry, and public and private universities, is the first of its kind in the nation. Jim Madigan asked Goodhue about the team of rivals behind the recently opened facility.
I should probably first name the team of rivals because it's really an interesting group. So it's 5 universities, Harvard, MIT, University of Massachusetts, Northeastern, and Boston University. I say it in a different order every time just to get that right. And we also have been cheered on and sponsored by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Cisco, and EMC, who have big presence in the state. I thought I might follow that by talking about how this all came together, because it's really been a decade-long journey. Early in the decade, computers began to become a major tool for researchers on campus. And about the middle of the decade, the universities began to notice that they had computers literally just coming out of their ears. And in some cases, there were just no place to put them, no power to feed to them. So they had this growing problem. And at about the same time, the universities got interested in finding ways to work together more effectively. And the Commonwealth and EMC and Cisco were interested in seeing that happen, so they provided some encouragement. So this was really the convergence of interest in working together and a tough problem to solve. About 3, maybe almost 4 years ago now, they got together and said, okay, let's go find a place with inexpensive power and very good communication infrastructure. And actually in the meeting, there's a famous meeting where somebody raised their hand in the back and said, well, Holyoke has the hydro facility, how about there? And that turns out to be the place where literally it has the lowest industrial electricity rates in the state. And as you may know, there's a major communication crossroads right here in Springfield. So it was easy for all of the universities to build literally very fast private links all the way back to their campuses.
Let's talk about literally what it is. It's a beautiful 90,000 square foot plus glass-walled building that produces, or uses, I guess I should say, pretty good amount of energy, but efficiently. And it's been done so that computers, any of us sitting with our own computer in our home office, feel after a few minutes that amazing amount of heat that comes off of these instruments. You're talking about having 20,000 or more of them eventually down the road in this building. So you've got energy use, you've got heat production that's got to be dissipated, if you will, so that the computers can continue to operate. All of that figured into coming to Holyoke too, didn't it? What you needed. Absolutely,
and our, the hydro facility and inexpensive electricity, giving you green as well as cost advantage, are an important part of the mix. But a very, very close second, if not equally important, is our focus on energy efficiency. So if you look at on average, data centers across the country today, we're about 30% better than average, maybe a little better than that. And the net of that, just measured in dollars, for example, when we're full up, probably about $4 million worth of electricity that we're not going to use. And that's of course the cleanest energy of all, is the energy that you don't use. And that required very careful investment in both how you bring the electricity into the building, as well as you say, how you move the heat out.
And one of the things that fascinated me in what I've read about the center is that, of course, computers run the center. You need to very carefully temperature control and to maintain specific conditions in the building. So you have computers and sensors all over the place itself.
This took me a little bit by surprise. I'm a computer guy at heart, and as we started looking at how the building was being designed, there are literally thousands of sensors through the building, all of which are monitored by computers. And then not quite so many, but a large number of places where the computer says, well, just open this valve, close this damper. So the computers are watching the place 24/7 and keeping it running at its optimal energy efficiency point throughout. It's really quite incredible to watch. The other thing, just as an aside, was the way the building was built. The architects built a computer model of the building, that generated drawings, but really the heart of it was the computer model. And often what you'd see in the construction office is an electrician and a plumber, an HVAC guy sitting down in front of a giant screen saying, well, before we go in here, let's simulate it. And in fact, oh, your pipe's going to bump into my piece of ductwork. Maybe we ought to move them around before we go in there, which meant that the time to build the building and the result was much better than what you'd see in the old days of paper and pencil.
Let's talk about physically how, now I know it's going to take a while to ramp up to the 20,000 or so computers, and presuming technology keeps going the way it's going, computers keep getting smaller and smaller, 20,000 may not be
just
the maximum number in ways down the road. But I mean, literally they're going to be, and I know people call them phone booth-like constructions. To me, they kind of look like, the big double-door refrigerators you might see in, a modern kitchen. But they're literally going to be kind of stacked up. Well, explain how this is going to be.
Well, they're stacked as tightly as we can get them without having them melt. I think that's the best way to think about it. And the other thing that we've done is actually critical to the energy efficiency of the building. We've interspersed the computers and the air conditioning units very, very tightly. So the amount of air that you need to move to cool these things is very, very little. And that's a big part of how we get better energy efficiency out of the building. Another way to think about it is just physically. If I think you've been in the space, it's a little less than an acre of computers stacked, as you say. We call them racks, but refrigerator-like things. So what you'll see when you go into the center is these big racks filled with green blinking lights as far as the eye can see.
Let's talk about it. You went off the list of the universities and the businesses, to some extent competitors, if you will, in the knowledge field, in the computing field, Cisco and their competitor. But what's the uniqueness of bringing all that knowledge and business and learning together in a place like this, do you think?
Well, there are actually a couple of different things. One is just practical business advantage. It takes about the same number of people to run this large data center as it would have to run 5 smaller data centers, and by pooling your investment, you can get much better energy efficiency and much better costs. So right off the bat, you've got a business advantage, and that's actually in the country today unique. A lot of people are watching us to see how 5 universities can get along as opposed to universities building their data centers individually. The other one that is going to have, I think, much bigger long-term impact is today when you bring your data together, it's much easier to work together. So if someone at UMass and someone at Harvard is working on a problem that's kind of similar, now they can share their data much more easily. People are building data sets now that are so big that even on the fastest networks, it would take 2 or 3 days to move it from one place to another. So if you can bring your computers together to work on the same data set, you can change the way you do research.
John Goodhue, thank you very much for your time, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Divorce, as well as the reality that many people are marrying later in life, can mean dating at an older age. UMass psychology professor Susan Krauss-Whitborn explored the challenges of this in a recent blog post for the Huffington Post, which she spoke with me about in the studio.
It's very tough to be out of the scene and then get back into the scene, where a lot of it are the attitudes and misconceptions that people have. But some of the fear is reality-based. It's tough. It's always tough in that situation.
Let's look at some of the misconceptions that people have. What are they?
Well, that first of all, that age is something to be ashamed of. That one of the things I emphasized in the article was that people should not be trying to disguise their real age. They shouldn't feel that it's a detriment, even though our society is very age biased still, especially towards women. You just cannot let that get in the way of your seeking new relationships.
And so one of the ways to get back out there is online dating, right? There are lots of sites that you can either pay for a subscription, or some of them are free. And you in the article on the Huffington Post, you outlined some sort of like tips and how-tos and some helpful advice for people. And one of those, sort of the first phase of it is, like you said, don't be ashamed of your age. And then the other one is, don't lie. I mean, it seems so obvious. But how do you help people sort of embrace who and what they are if they're actually going to use online dating as a tool?
I think you have to take it in steps, and I pointed out that you can't just jump all into it and say, okay, I'm going to do this, and you cannot go beyond your comfort zone, because that is when you probably are going to engage in a little deception, just to kind of help bridge the gap or to make you feel less anxious. But you really have to take it at your own pace.
And something that you wrote that I thought was great was 50 may be the new 30, but to the single set, it may feel like a very old 60.
Yeah,
what's the impact of that for people?
Well, it's that people are so self-conscious about their age that they then emphasize their age instead of their other qualities that are very worthwhile and positive. In fact, one of the things that we know about people as they get older is their experience really does help them. So you actually have a lot of attributes that you can be out there and selling as a strong point instead of trying to make go away.
So you're better equipped, sounds like, to date at 50s than you might be at 20 or 30 or something like that.
Oh, I think so. I mean, especially once you gain a little bit of self-confidence about the whole process, because especially people as they go through life do pick out or do pick up on the ability to tell the difference between people who are lying and people who are telling the truth, and being able to kind of cut through a lot of the layers. And so that is a real strength in, first of all, knowing yourself, and then being able to gauge the people who might be the best relationships for you.
Something else that you point out in the piece is that, in essence, you encourage people to tap into their values, especially when they're choosing, if they decide to do this, choosing an online site. You know, if you trend religious, you can find a religious online site and things like that. Do you find that helps people find a more suitable match, do you think?
Absolutely. If you just take the shotgun approach, it's going to feel like you're very lost. And so depending, again, on what your values are, not just what religion you happen to have, but if religion is important to you, or if certain kinds of interests are important to you, so that you can really narrow things down and don't feel like you're jumping into the pool.
Right. Something that occurred to me, you know, so it's standard dating. If you go out and you're in a social setting, you're kind of looking around the room, maybe eyeing up the competition. Online dating, you have thousands of people that you can look at their profiles and not only what they look like, but what they've done with their life and what their likes and dislikes are. How do you encourage people not to get psyched out by all of that information?
To be overwhelmed?
Yeah.
Not to make too many choices, not to really limit the pool of what you're looking at, and to do it in small doses. Don't let sort of fatigue get to you. And when you start to feel bad about yourself or confused, that's the time to stop. It's like online shopping. Time to stop.
Step away from the
yes,
computer.
Step away.
So on the other side, you know, if people have used this tool and they found someone that they've been communicating with online, when do you recommend is a good time to maybe start talking on the phone or even meet in person? How do you gauge that?
Pretty soon, actually. Once you've determined that this is somebody who, at least theoretically, interests you, don't let things go on too long. I mean, the research really shows that the longer you go, first of all, the harder it is to pull out if you don't get the vibes. But second of all, and even worse, you start to make an emotional commitment to somebody who may not be the best person for you, and you just go through with it.
Your imagination can kind of run amok too, right?
Yeah.
You start building up expectation that for this person that maybe they're not then going to meet when you meet them in person. I'm curious though, I find it interesting that you do say talk on the phone or meet sooner. I would think maybe you would want to encourage people to develop a relationship slowly, maybe before they meet. No.
Well, there's slow and there's slowly, I guess. I think.
Tell us, ferret out the difference there.
Well, research shows that not letting things develop too far online is a good idea for meeting this person. But then once you say meet the person, I mean, don't jump in completely, because it is better to take it slow when the actual relationship starts, because then things can get out of control.
For someone who is getting back into dating, who might be in the midlife, might be 50, 60, something like that, do you think that online dating is better than, say, any sort of a more typical social situation that you might encourage them to get into?
It certainly is no worse when they compare offline dating to online dating. Depending on how the online dating is done, it's no worse. So I know that's a negative way to put it. I didn't mean to sound negative, but I think that the differences are, it is threatening for somebody to just go into the single scene or go to a bar or a club and kind of feel exposed. And then some bad choices can inevitably be made.
So in terms of tips for people that you would offer as they're putting themselves out there online, what's too much information? What's not enough information? How do you find a happy medium?
Yeah, well, too much information is you're gonna know that you're gonna feel that little gut feeling, that intuition that maybe I shouldn't say this about myself. Now, it may be something, who knows, depending on, people could have all sorts of things they don't want to share about themselves. I'm not saying you have to tell where all your intimate birthmarks are, but you probably want to keep it pretty circumspect in the same way that people use Facebook, because anybody could be out there looking.
Sure, yeah. So less is more in that
Less
instance.
is more. And then it's good to be suspicious of people who do have a little TMI going on, because you might be wondering why do they feel the need to do that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your insights today. It's fun to have you back.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here.
Tomorrow on Connecting Point, State Representative Stephen Kulik joins Jim Madigan for our State We're In edition. That's on Friday. I'm Carrie Saldo. Let's connect tomorrow night.
Connecting Point is brought to you by the members of WGBY and by
Cold-pressed, unfiltered, unblended, pure Greek extra virgin olive oil. Now it's here. From the olive tree to the bottle, Manny's olive oil, the elixir of life.